All right, welcome to the Jim Acosta Show, and it's another day that ends in Y and the Epstein files cover up, but perhaps that cover up is coming to an end. We'll see. You just never know. Democratic Congressman Khanna is our big guest this hour. Congressman, great to have you on. Thanks so much.
Pleasure to be on, Jim.
Yeah, and we've been noting all week the clock ticking down to the deadline of tomorrow, I believe at midnight, for the administration to start producing the Epstein files as an effect of this law that was passed by the Congress, signed by Donald Trump. Even though a law wasn't necessary, they could have done this at any point. But their hand has been forced. And I guess the big question, just to start off, is: do you think they're going to comply with this? What's the sense that you have at this hour?
Well, it would be mind-boggling if they don't.
Yeah.
The reason is that Massey and my bill that passed 427 to 1 in the House and 100 to 0 in the Senate was cited by the Department of Justice to 3 federal judges. They said to the judges, please allow us to unseal the grand jury testimony and the discovery testimony in Maxwell's criminal case and Epstein's 2 criminal cases. And they said, you've got to reverse your old rulings, which said we couldn't release this because Khanna's Epstein Transparency Act, which passed and the president signed, requires us to do it. And the 3 federal judges said, yes, we're going to reverse ourselves. You no longer have to have this protected. You can release the information. So for the Justice Department to be citing the law and asking judges to allow the release and then not to release it would be mind-boggling. But this administration has been so irrational, you never know.
Right, you just never know. And, we saw the way that the president was behaving during his speech to the nation. And so, all bets are off as to how this is going to play off. But do you get any sense that they're going to play any games? I mean, what about there's been a lot of concern that the files have already been scrubbed, that they've gone through and removed mentions of Donald Trump's name and so on. I can't imagine how they can do that when we've already seen what's come out of the Epstein estate and so on. But your thoughts on all of that? Have you gotten any assurances that that won't happen? I guess we'll find out.
Well, look, the first step is, are they going to release all the documents, and are they going to release particularly the ones that the federal judges have ordered them to release? The second thing is they have 15 days after that to explain to Congress, if they redact anything, why they are redacting and what the rationale basis is. Now, we know lawyers who've seen these files. I have talked to Bradley Edwards and others, the survivors' lawyers. So we will have a good sense if they're playing games, if they are manipulating or hiding the actual files, and we will make a huge issue of it. And the other point, Jim, is now any Justice Department official who does that could be subject to criminal prosecution in a future administration. They are literally obstructing justice. And even if Pam Bondi doesn't prosecute them, the statute of limitations doesn't run out when you have a new Democratic president.
Interesting. Okay. And so this deadline could come. They could produce documents and files, but then there will be the painstaking task of going through what is released. And then it could be a whole new sort of deadline that we'll be facing, is what it sounds like you're saying. And I guess your sense at this point as to, how what we're going to see, how at risk is the president in all of this? I mean, we're just seeing these new photos that were released today by the House Oversight Democrats, and they're quite disturbing. I guess here's a picture right here of Epstein with some girls or young ladies with their faces redacted. I mean, this is disturbing stuff.
It's disgusting. And you have girls being raped and abused on Epstein Island. And then you have rich and powerful men showing up to some of these parties in certain cases on Epstein's Island, knowing that there's a 16-year-old or 17-year-old in their midst. And even if those rich and powerful men didn't abuse those young girls directly, the fact that they were there and as if nothing was wrong and didn't say anything, basically signaling to all these young girls that this is okay, that there's nothing they can do. I mean, it is just a heinous action. And that's why I said this entire Epstein class needs to go. And what Americans want to know is, who are these rich and powerful men who either covered up for Epstein or who actually abused or raped young girls or who engaged in these sex parties where they were paying for sex trafficking. And that is what needs to come out. It's not how many documents, how many emails, how many photos. Are the names of those people who covered up or committed these crimes going to come out? They exist. I know they exist because of what the survivors and survivors' lawyers say. And that, to me, is really what I'll be looking for.
Yeah. And I mean, you were one of the members of the House on that discharge petition. You led that charge to force the release of the Epstein files. As you were saying, you and Congressman Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, some others who were leading that effort. And I guess one of the questions is what is happening tomorrow in the House of Representatives? I saw you put up a tweet earlier in the day that said Epstein files released Friday because of my and Thomas Massey Epstein Transparency Act, and House cancels session that day. Coincidence? Question mark. Is that because Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, doesn't want House Republicans having to answer for what's being released?
Look, Johnson's go-to has been to shut down Congress anytime Epstein comes up. You'll remember he didn't want my bill to get a vote. He shut down Congress a week earlier in the August recess. Then he literally shut down the House of Representatives for almost 7 weeks during the shutdown debate because he didn't want the Massey or my bill to get a vote. And then he wanted the Senate to amend it, but he got shut down on that, and the survivors overcame it. Now, he knows there's going to be embarrassing details in these files, and my guess is he does not want Republicans commenting to reporters or an active Congress at that time. So he shut it down. It has been a total cover-up, and it's a betrayal of the MAGA base. It's the first thing that has unraveled the MAGA base.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And they've been putting the heat on members of Congress, and I think it's part of the reason why that legislation passed through the House and Senate as quickly as it did. We're looking at some of the photos that were released by the Democrats on the Oversight Committee. There are some very high-profile people whose faces are in these photos. We should note, for the record, we don't know why these pictures are there, why they're associated with Jeffrey Epstein, what they were doing. We can't, say anything definitive in terms of what these photos tell us. But how disturbed are you by the fact that you see a lot of high-profile people here? And Congressman, is there the possibility that criminal charges could come out of this once these files are released to the public?
I'm very disturbed, but I want to be careful. I mean, look, there's a difference between high-profile, rich and powerful people who abused or raped these young girls, or who showed up at sex parties where underage girls were there and knew that they were being abused and raped. And there's a difference between that and someone who may just have shown up in an event with Jeffrey Epstein. And, he was involved in many things. He gave a lot of money. And I certainly don't want to paint with that broad a brush that just because someone was at some event where Epstein was at and had a picture taken with them, that their careers get destroyed or that their reputation gets destroyed. I think we have to be careful. There were rich and powerful men who abused these young girls and who did heinous things, and they should be accountable. But we also need to make sure that we're not destroying innocent people in the process.
Absolutely. And as we've seen in some of these pictures, some of the faces are being redacted. I assume that the DOJ is going through that kind of a process to make sure that survivors and victims, that their faces are not shown in all of this.
Absolutely. It's that the victims and survivors aren't shown, that they're protected. That's what the legislation calls for. And it's making sure that the rich and powerful men, who I call the Epstein class, the ones who are held accountable, are the ones who actually engaged in rape or sex trafficking or a cover-up. Obviously, Epstein, I don't know how he was worth $500 million. He met a lot of people in society. And just because someone met him, it doesn't mean that they're guilty. But there are a lot of people who are guilty, and that's what needs to come out.
Yeah. And while I have you, I have to ask you, because there's another discharge petition that made its way through the House on the Affordable Care Act, subsidies to help poor people buy health insurance on the Obamacare exchanges, that some moderate Republicans joined with the Democrats to, I guess, get that discharge petition to the threshold, the 218 vote threshold that it's needed to get a vote in the House. And I suppose it may go to the Senate after that. Your sense of where that stands right now, is it possible for all these folks who are worried about Obamacare premiums going up that there may be some relief in sight? What do we think?
Well, I really want to commend Hakeem Jeffries for his leadership. He showed the leadership that the base has wanted. He fought and he said, we're not going to cave. We're not going to sign Republican discharge petitions that don't really extend the tax credits for everyone. We're going to hold on to fighting for health care. And 4 Republicans came across the aisle. They've signed it. We're going to pass a 3-year Affordable Care Act tax credit extension when we come back in January. That will make a huge difference. Their people's premiums going to go up from $50 a month to $2,000 a month. It will matter for them. Then it goes to the Senate. And I'm open to some compromise, but we need the Senate to do what Hakeem did in the House. And then we need a bill that actually extends these credits. I'm cautiously optimistic if we see the kind of fight and leadership that we saw in the House from Hakeem.
Yeah, but the Speaker, Mike Johnson, is blocking this, it seems, or is attempting to block this. What do we think?
He's going to try to block it, but I don't think he'll succeed. I mean, I think we will get the vote in the House, and I think the bigger issue is then can we get it through the Senate?
Yeah, and I guess what is your sense of the I guess very fragile position that Mike Johnson is in right now? Because there's been a lot of talk about how these discharge petitions. I mean, this is some wonky stuff that a lot of Americans are saying. What is a discharge petition? I don't remember that episode of Schoolhouse Rock, but it does speak to what is going on inside the House of Representatives right now, where you guys are almost acting like a de facto speaker in a way, in that when there's a really important piece of legislation that everybody seems to want to pass, you have to do this end run around the Speaker of the House. I've covered Washington a long time. I haven't really seen this kind of development where it just now seems to be the process for getting important legislation through.
Well, look, Massey and I cracked the code. When we started the discharge petition, people thought there we go, Khanna and Massey. We used to lead these discharge petitions to keep us out of war. We never used to win. And people rolled their eyes. And we built over 5 months a coalition that withstood the attacks of the Speaker, that withstood the threats of the president. And we won. And we showed from the first time that Donald Trump came down the escalator that it's possible to stand up to Donald Trump and get him to cave. He literally signed my bill. And we show that it's possible to stand up to a Republican speaker who's not doing his job. Since Massey and I succeeded, we've had like 50 discharge petitions in the House. Everything from banning stock trading to extending the healthcare provisions to standing up for workers. And I think it's great. I think this is what we needed to do. We needed to wake Congress up. We're Article 1. We're not supposed to be the subsidiary for Donald Trump. And now you have a Congress that is actually pushing back and saying that and asserting its power. And this is, in my view, why Trump's numbers are falling, why he's seen as an increasing lame duck, why he has to schedule a primetime address to say, I'm still relevant, I'm still president around here. And, it's really been a sea change from the beginning of this year when Donald Trump came surrounded by tech billionaires riding high. It's the beginning of the end of the Trump presidency.
Yeah, if it walks like a lame duck and talks like a lame duck, it sure seems like a lame duck. And that's what we're seeing out of Donald Trump these days. Congressman Ro Khanna, California, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. No discharge petition needed. Anytime you want to come on, we'll have you on. Happy to do it.
Thank you, Jim. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you and to the viewers.
And to you as well. Thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate it. All right. It's remarkable what's happening these days. They have to come up with all these kooky new ideas for getting legislation passed that the American people want. I mean, the American people want the Epstein files to be released. The American people want affordable health care. I mean, it's just like, this is not rocket science, but sometimes it comes across that way to a lot of people. Okay, one person I've been very excited about getting on this show. I'm a big admirer of hers because she just goes for it on social media. And one of the things that she does, and we'll talk about this, is that she goes after the guys a little bit and basically tries to grab them by the shirt collar and say, enough with the toxic masculinity bullshit. And there's a lot of that going around these days. And so we need people like Liz Plank, AKA Feminist Fabulous. There she is right there.
Hi, Jim. I've been dying to come on your show.
I can't believe this is happening.
I watch you all the time. I've loved seeing you soar.
Oh my gosh.
I love your audience. I love what you're doing, and I couldn't be happier. You know, I think the last time I saw you in person may have been at
Yeah.
like Trump Tower in 2016, and I was just taking
Is
my
that
my
right?
cues from you because I
I
was
think
just a little baby, and you were and still are such a legend, and you were always so nice to me, and I took a lot of cues from you and all the amazing work that you've always done, really keeping a certain man, you know, really accountable
I
with your
appreciate it.
work. Yeah.
Well, that means a lot. I'm just so glad to hear that I was behaving myself back in 2016
Sure.
when you
Oh,
were around. That makes me feel a whole lot better because, you know, that
100%.
isn't always the case when you're a campaign reporter. And who the
It's
hell knew that this was all of this batshit crazy stuff was going to come out of that campaign? But here we
yeah.
are in the
And then what
second
happened
term.
again?
Yeah. But I want to jump into this because we were talking about the Epstein files a little while ago with Khanna, and you have, you know, you focused on this in your social media videos on Instagram and stuff like that, and you're blowing up on Spotify. I mean, it's unreal how, you know, successful you've been. I'm really proud of you
Thank you.
in this new information, you know, independent universe that we're in. But
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about the Epstein thing. There's like this deadline tomorrow night.
Mm.
People want to see this. I mean, some really disturbing, awful stuff came out today. I mean, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, you know, every day, there's just a new way to be just sort of dumbfounded with
Yeah,
the information that we're being presented. I just wrote a piece on my Substack yesterday that was called like, "Did I hallucinate this whole year?" Like, I
right.
truly feel like
Yeah,
every morning I just see not just one, not just two, but just several. Pieces of information that my brain struggles to process, and today was one of those days,
yeah,
you know, with
totally.
this sort of slow drip with some of the photos that we're seeing from, you know, coming out of the Epstein estate. And today my brain is trying to process David Brooks
I
being
know these
heavily
weird photos in there. It's
featured.
what the hell's going
Yes,
on? Yeah,
yes. Oh, I wrote that too. The president is unwell.
we're
Yeah.
gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna
I
get
mean,
to that too.
it's been a week. Like you know, Jim, like you've been in the trenches for so long, and I think I was seeing a viral video of actually during your time in the maybe the first administration when you were
Yeah,
still with CNN, of you sort of demanding answers and sort of refusing to sort of be gaslit by the president. Going viral, and you've always done that, and I think it's really, I don't know, this week really, maybe because I'm in LA, and you know, a year ago we had the fires, and then ICE was you know, taking over our streets, and then
LA has had a year.
yeah, it's just I was like folding laundry, you know, after I wrote that piece, and I just started to weep. You know, I think it's really hard to wrap your head around a being like a person and a man being so unwell and him being really in charge of us.
Let's
Um,
show that piece again because I want to just you're so right about this. And what's incredible is you wrote this piece and I wrote a very similar piece, I think almost simultaneously, and we almost
we're
published
both
this simultaneously. This was Donald Trump, and this is the reason why I reached out to you this week. Donald Trump's response to Rob Reiner to me was nothing short of evil. And I mean, you know, people get pissed when I say things like that, but I'm like, why are we tiptoeing around this stuff anymore? Like this is absolutely appalling stuff. But when I saw you write this, it just made me feel like, okay, maybe I'm not unwell. You know, maybe
yeah,
I'm in touch with with how this should be approached. I mean, this is disgusting, vile stuff.
I totally agree, and I
Yeah,
think the framing. I think I saw your post about it. I think maybe
yeah,
you put a note on Substack or a thread wherever. There's so many platforms. But
yeah,
you had made yeah. I think that's how I learned about his statement was actually through your post about it, and I just I think it's really important how we frame stories,
yes,
and it has been important for the last 10 years. Again, as a veteran reporter, like, you know that. And I think the media still struggles
yes,
to appropriately frame things. And I think it was really important to frame this not as um almost not as like amoral, but unwell, right? Like this isn't
Yes.
just someone who is lacking a moral character, and that's very, scary to
It's not about just
be around.
meanness.
It's
Yeah.
not around us exactly. It's not just about being mean. It's someone who is deeply unwell does that, right? Like someone who is deeply unwell doesn't just think that, but posts it, right? And I think that element is or sort of that framing was important for me to write, right? Like I'm
Yes.
sure it feels like that for you too with the way that you write, right? You almost, we're sort of in this fog, and it's important to like correct what we're seeing and correct the record.
I
And I
agree.
hoping that Republicans that this would be, I think there's been so many of these, right? You go, okay, well, this will be the one, this will be the thing, right? Like this
Yeah.
is the most vile thing he's done. And, it just sort of continues as we know, that there's just no basement. It's just, it keeps going and going and going. And he gives us a new low. I mean, it's just, he
Totally.
finds a new low every single day. And it's important to not frame ourselves as being unwell when we react to it. Cause yeah, I'm sobbing and I'm doing the laundry on it, like what's going on. Like I'm not unwell. He's unwell. And
Yeah.
I'm having a normal reaction to an abnormal person who
That's
has
right.
been, in charge of us for the last 10 years. I mean, it does something to your nervous system. And I think we're
I
going to
agree.
be unpacking it for a long time.
I totally agree with you. And I'm wondering, like, what's it been like in LA since Sunday when the Rob Reiner news went down? Because I mean, I knew him, I interviewed him a few times. A lot of people in LA like ran across him or would see him or knew his family. And I mean, even if you're not in that category, I just have to think that in LA, this was like losing a really important member of the community.
Totally. I mean,
Yeah.
this was when I would go on MSNBC. When we still did that in person, and
Yeah.
he would be there a lot. I mean, he was at the No Kings protest a couple months ago. I mean, it's just devastating. This was a pillar. I mean, I think he was a pillar of the community. He was a pillar in Hollywood, obviously, but this was an American hero. This was
Yeah.
someone who just exuded so much moral clarity, but still did it in a kind way, right? Like this was someone who just had an impeccable like amount of integrity and really acted from
Yes.
that place. And I will say I really think, I mean, whatever, we're not going to analyze, Donald Trump. We know where that sort of leads, but
Yeah.
I think that going after Rob Reiner wasn't just going after Rob Reiner. I think it was going after Hollywood. He was going after California, right? Like
Yes.
we know that this president is really gone after. I mean, I'm talking about, he didn't cause the fires, but the way that he responded to the fires was atrocious, right? Like
Yeah.
blaming
That shit. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
blaming a black lesbian, or blaming blind people for plane crashes. Like it's just and then ICE and sort of the takeover of our parks and our town, I think has been very, very traumatic. And yeah, I feel like he went that far because he views Rob Reiner as representing this Hollywood and this
That is very
glaze,
interesting.
right?
It's another way to attack LA. It's another way to attack
Exactly.
California, another way to
Mhm.
attack a place that he's not liked in.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Exactly.
That
Exactly.
yeah. Well, one of the things that we should get into is how much fun you have on you. I mean, I know not to switch gears and take a hard left turn, but like I love the fact that you just sort of like go for it and it's just like fuck it. This is the world we're in right now. So who cares? Like we're just gonna do this. And
You're funny.
and like
Oh.
the videos you put up, maybe we can show one of the videos where you just like, I mean, it's just priceless. You know, you just
Emails? Have you read the
don't.
Epstein emails? No, because we already knew. I saw the Hollywood Access tape 10 years ago. That was
Yep.
enough. What did you think when you saw that? And how did you vote for him and then vote for him again? JD
Yeah.
Vance?
JD Vance. That's sort of an end to a lot of our questions these days. JD Vance.
Yes.
But I mean,
Yeah.
talk about like why you are. I mean, how did you come up with this style? It is completely taken off. I mean, you talk about me going viral. That was like a million years ago. You do this like every day now. So
Well, no,
you're taking notes now.
Well, I take notes from you, and
Yeah.
truly, I really mean it. I think, I honestly think your leadership like is truly important to mention here. Like it's when I started working in journalism, I was like, first of all, I'm like French Canadian. I wasn't even born here. I didn't go to J school.
Don't say that out loud, but yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. It's dangerous at this point to admit that, but it's, it just felt, I don't know, and I think this applies to everything. When you try and do something, right, that you've never done before, or something that's challenging or exciting, and you have any kind of goal, I think there's this first like impulse to kind of emulate people who are doing that thing, right? So you go,
Mm.
okay, well, this is how a reporter dresses and this is how a reporter talks. And, I remember going on MSNBC really early in my career and being like scared, like being like, oh my God, like people are going to find out that I'm not all that. And so I imitated or I did the voice, right? And I wore the clothes and,
Here's the serious thing. Yeah, right.
yes, that's how you talk, that's how you act. And over time, I mean, I find it really hard not to be myself. I'm just a terrible actress.
Yeah.
And I'm very like like it's hard. I'm no poker face. And so, but I started realizing that like the times where I did speak my mind, where I did allow my, I don't know, like my real person, like you only get one chance of being yourself.
I think that's
There's
it.
only one
Authenticity.
go. So
That's
you
it.
might as well be your full self and be the most yourself that you can be. And that's sort of what I, started to do. And then I saw that it would, people, it resonated with people. It didn't mean that I lost jobs, it didn't mean that people were like, oh my God, she's nuts. It meant that people were like, oh my God, she's real, oh my God, that's how I feel. And so I like to have fun, I brought this.
Yes. Oh shit. I've got antler ears too. I should have done that.
Too.
Okay.
I just like to have fun. Also, we're covering such deep, dark. Oh my God.
I know.
Mean,
there you go. Well, you see our producers listening. He added some candy canes there. There you
did.
go.
Oh,
we're getting in the holiday spirit. But
I wish I could give you one. I actually usually carry around a few, because that's really cute. I love that.
I love it too. But let me ask you this, because one of the things that I think that you do, which is priceless, is the way you go after, I don't want to say go after, the way you, I think, offer constructive criticism to boys and men. And it's sort of like, I think you've described it as for the love of men.
Yeah,
and
it's right there.
There are so many bad guys, and I'll just say this as a guy. Guys have so many bad examples, so many bad role models these days. And like male behavior to me, like there's a lot of guys I just want to smack upside the back of the head and just be like, guys, what the fuck are you doing? You can't act like Donald Trump. That doesn't work. They can't act like JD Vance. And can you talk about that a little bit and like what the message is there? Because there's a lot, there's like incel behavior. There's a lot of guys who would just rather be gaming and online. And I'm thinking to myself, thank God I didn't have Facebook. Thank God I didn't have cell phones when I went to college. We went to keg parties. If you saw somebody you liked, you went up to them, you got their phone number. There was no texting. You just maybe, called them the next day. Not to sound like an old guy, but
I want
what I'm
that
saying?
back. I want it back. I remember those days.
Wouldn't it be great if we go back to that?
Oh my God, where you just knew 5 phone numbers, and you
just knew 5 phone numbers, or you wrote the phone number on somebody's arm or something like that.
Napkin, and then you called them, and there wasn't any rules. There
wasn't like let's touch phones or anything like that. No
liking hearts. What are all the emojis mean? It's just a full-time job now. I think to be alive in 2025, and especially if you're dating, and I think it's hard for men. One of the things that I wrote a book called For the Love of Men. It's right there, and I wrote it in 2019, and one of the sort of things that sparked wanting to write that book was Donald Trump running for president. I thought, okay, it's 2015. We're going to have our first female president. It's going to be an interesting run, and then obviously things went, a really interesting way, to put it lightly. And, and one thing that I talk about in the book is it's sort of known that we need to protect our daughters, right? That girls, if you have a girl, if you're a girl dad, or, a mother of daughters, you want to protect them. You want to protect them from, violence. You want to protect them from danger. You want to protect them from, all kinds of sort of proverbial boogeymens that sort of exist. And what I find striking is that we don't think that boys are sort of worthy of that same protection. And
Agreed.
I think now more than ever, it is so obvious, right? That sure, there are boogeymens for girls. There's a lot of things that girls deal with. It's hard to be a teenage girl. I was there. I don't want to do it again. But there are a lot more threats
Yeah.
and not more than girls, but there are a lot more than there used to be. And there are growing threats when it comes to boys. I mean, all of the things that you mentioned, right? Like we have these, social media platforms. I think there's certain attention paid to eating disorders for girls, right? We have to make sure not to show them certain images. We have to, ensure some sort of moderation when it comes to that, or even parenting when it comes to exposure to those things, or conversations, right, to contain those kinds of images and help girls have a positive perception of themselves. We need the same thing for boys and men, and I think we don't sort of first of all, I think this is changing a little bit since I wrote the book 5 years ago, but there's so many books about how to become a strong girl, right? How to resist
Yes.
the sort of gender patriarchal programming. And for boys, who also are living in that same society where they're told all kinds of different messages about, what you can do, what you can't do. There aren't as many resources. There's not as much community, and we know this partially because boys and men are just men are less likely to volunteer, men are less likely to get involved in their community. And so part of the book or part of my work is, I do chastise, I do call things out. But the people that I call out the most are the men who know better. And the men who have power, and the men who have influence, and the men who own those platforms and are making money off of those platforms out of the radicalization of young boys. And I think have
I hate that the Tate brothers are something that's like guys look up to, or Tucker Carlson. Just these guys are assholes.
Disgusting.
They're disgusting. They're bad people.
And girls don't like them.
Girls don't like them.
Girls won't like you. Like that whole, it's
bingo.
Just, and we know that because, he has to literally, he's been arrested for, if he could get girls, he wouldn't have to force them to spend time with him, right? So he wouldn't have to traffic them. That sort of goes.
And why are the Trump people even helping them out? Like, there's that whole story. It's so much. It's just too much.
It is, and it just 500 things happened since then. And was that this year? I can't. That was this year.
That was this year. This is like one of the years from hell. I know.
Oh my god!
Make it end. Make it stop.
How are we gonna? Oh my! We're gonna need just so much. We're gonna just, I don't know, sensory room, but for like our brains. Just a reset.
I know.
So we have to be nice to each other.
I was gonna say, what is the answer? What is from feminist fabulous? What is I know drinking water is important. Hydrating.
Drinking water. I know. Can you tell?
We don't take commercial breaks. We sometimes on YouTube, but on the Substack we don't. So
I love it. That's why this is real, and that's why people love it. Remember also in the night, like we just didn't drink water in the 90s. Do you remember this?
That's true.
We
had sodas. it was okay to drink sodas back then.
Yeah, we drank a lot of milk. We drank a lot of milk.
I drank a lot of Coca-Cola. I will say, and I did the thing where you go to the soda fountain, you would like get all of them and put it into one.
Oh yeah.
That was the best.
Oh,
it was like just pure sugar. It was just disgusting.
Oh my god.
But you can't do apparently you're not supposed to do that anymore.
There's all kinds of we're supposed to drink a 5-liter, and then but it must be good.
That's
for
a
us.
hell of a mason jar there.
That's a lot. Yeah, I have no patience because I fill up the water and like I let it, it like hits the water thing, and so I can walk away and do other things until it fills up, and then I don't, I'm just busy. I'm busy. I don't have time to fill up my water many times a day.
Well, for the folks out there who, I'm just telling everybody for their homework assignment, please go check out. Everybody's probably already seen you, but they need to go see. This is this is another good one. I like all the bright colors too. The bright colors to me are important. I need to do better at that.
Well, it just brightens my day, and I feel, I lived in New York for 10 years and I was never a really good New Yorker because you're supposed to dress in black. And I
know it's a drawback. It is.
It's tough. Yeah. It's good for stains. It's good if you're staining your clothes a lot, which I do a lot.
I'm in DC, so it's a lot of blue. It's a
Right.
lot of gray, which is also
Right.
terribly boring, but at least it's not
No,
black. There's a
you're
palette.
so
There's a
cool. Jim, you're so cool. No,
no.
no one else could have pulled off what you've pulled off. I'm so excited. I love
Well,
to see it. I love seeing the real Jim Acosta. I mean, you always were feisty and you were always like, you always stuck out from the rest. But
I
I just
appreciate
have
it.
been so overjoyed to see
Wow.
this new like Jim Acosta era. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan.
Well, we should keep doing this. Let's do
Yeah,
this
let's
again.
do it.
And the homework assignment to everybody is to check you out on socials, because I think if they were to see you on Instagram, they would see even more of the real you than we're getting right
Aw,
now, which is, I
sweet.
think, is fantastic. I love it. Good
Sweet.
for you. Keep going, keep
Thanks.
charging, and happy holidays, Merry
Happy
Christmas, all of those things.
holidays. I'll send you a little crown. I'll ask your producer for your dress.
Perfect. We'll do it. All right,
Yeah.
we'll do it next time. Thanks,
Bye,
Liz.
everybody. Bye,
Good to
Jim.
see you. That was great. The wonderful Liz playing. I want to, if she'll let me, I would love to make her a regular on the show, because I love the energy that she brings. And I just can't imagine what the comments are like right now. But for people who have not seen, some of the pictures and the videos and the things that she does on Instagram are top notch. I encourage everybody to check it out. Before we get going, I do want to mention that earlier in the day, I mean, you guys have heard me talk about this story, and it is very much tied to something, that a terrible tragedy that we just had in the news in the last several days. Everybody saw what happened over the weekend with the massacre on the beach in Australia, Bondi Beach, where it was an anti-Semitic attack on a Hanukkah celebration. Multiple deaths, 15 or so killed, many wounded. And it raises again the issue of anti-Semitism around the world. And one of the things that has just come up in the news in the last several days, and we've talked about this on the show, with the U.S. Coast Guard, for some reason, there's somebody inside the Coast Guard who thinks it's a good idea to have a policy that downgrades the significance of swastikas and nooses. This has been in the news lately. And it was reported just a few days ago that they were going to reverse this, that they were going to go back to saying that swastikas and nooses are bad when it comes to being on a Coast Guard vessel. You can't have those things displayed. They've reversed that policy again, and they've downgraded the significance of these hate symbols. They're trying to say that they're possibly divisive. Well, I talked to Senator Jackie Rosen earlier in the day about this. She has placed a hold, as they call it. Basically, she has blocked the Senate confirmation of the man who's been tapped to lead the Coast Guard because of this policy. I think it's a very important thing that she's done. Here's our conversation. Take a look. All right, and joining us now is Democratic Senator from Nevada, Jackie Rosen. Senator Rosen, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. Really glad to be here today.
Yeah, and we reached out to your team to set this up as soon as we saw this news that you had placed a hold on the nomination of Admiral Kevin Lunday to serve as the head of the Coast Guard. And this was after the Coast Guard, I guess this is according to the Hill, backtracked on keeping swastikas and nooses labeled as hate symbols. Instead, moving forward by listing the images as, quote, potentially divisive, which is, I mean, it's mind-boggling. And there's a story from the Associated Press right there as well. Your thoughts on this and why this move was necessary?
Well, I think that we can all agree that swastikas and nooses are symbols of hate. So let's just start right there.
Yeah.
I would say that most people will agree on that. Maybe not all 100%, but I'm going to hopefully give it a 99.9%. Number one. So number two, last month, the Coast Guard announced a policy change that would no longer really prohibit or classify swastika and nooses as symbols of hate or even as potentially divisive. Okay,
Yeah.
so this was a radical change. Now, we know anti-Semitic incidents are rising in this country at an alarming rate all around the world. And Coast Guard have been doing the exact opposite by helping this problem by relaxing these rules. So I was able to speak with Acting Commander Lundy right after this happened. I had many conversations with him, and so did my team. And he quickly issued a memo saying that this would not be the policy and that he would work on fixing it. My team has subsequently spoken with him. I've spoken with him, and we had his assurances of that. Then lo and behold, we find out, well, everything happens with this administration, the chaos administration, by tweet or text or God knows how we find out. And
They did it anyway.
They did it anyway.
Yeah.
So I quickly got on the phone again with the admiral, and I said, this is what we want. And this is a no-brainer. This is just common sense. Now, there are many policies and many manuals in the military, but there's manuals everywhere. I have a handbook, a personnel handbook. I'm sure you have one too, places that you've worked. When you have a question, where do you go? You go to the manual. So you don't say, is there a memo that overrides the manual? And what was the date of the memo? And does it agree with this or that or the other? So now you have a Coast Guard serviceman or woman who feels that they may be harassed, and they go to the manual. Now, there's a civil rights manual, there's a harassment manual, and then now there's a memo. What is this poor person going to find? They go to the manual, it doesn't say anything. It has relaxed standard. Oh, they're supposed to find the memo? And that's the one? So I told the admiral this, simple, plain as day. Be consistent across all manuals. Wherever these policies exist for harassment, whether it's a civil rights manual, harassment manual, or others, there's a lot of manuals in the military, I get it, say the same damn thing.
Right.
So people can go find it.
Well,
that's all I'm asking them to do. There's no consistency. Christy Nome tweets one thing, we've seen another.
right.
I just, the chaos and confusion has just created whiplash. It makes no sense. And we're going to have to continue to research it, get to the bottom of it. I'm going to continue to hold his nomination until we can resolve this with showing consistency, so the regular person can just go to the manual and see what they need to do.
And Senator, I guess the other question is, I mean, what did the admiral say to you? Are they doing this are they going around him when it comes to this policy and keeping this policy that that swastikas are not a hate symbol? I mean, what's going on? Do we know what's happening?
Well, I won't speak for the admiral, but he has shared with me that he doesn't feel that there should be a change in the policy, and he wants it to be consistent across everything else. So he'll have to answer for himself where that pressure might be coming from. There are, he reports to Secretary Nome. Perhaps it's coming from someplace else, but he will have to speak for himself on that. What I've asked him to do and what I want him to commit to doing, and I believe that he'll try, and we're going to hold him to that, is to be consistent across all manuals when it comes to symbols of hate. There's just no denying that these are symbols of hate and harassment.
Absolutely. And right now you're seeing anti-Semitism on the rise around the world. We just saw this massacre on this beach in Sydney, Australia, aimed at a Hanukkah celebration there. I mean, it's absolutely horrendous what has been happening. And it seems to me this is no time for the United States to relax any kind of moral leadership when it comes to combating anti-Semitism and hate.
That's exactly right. I'm the co-founder and the co-chair of the first ever bipartisan task force to combat anti-Semitism in the Senate. And the work that my co-chair, James Langford, and I have done over the last 7 years to elevate this issue, to legislate, to illuminate all of those things, to fight anti-Semitism domestically, we feel very good about. But there's more work to be done, particularly since October 7th. We see people just eating at a Jewish deli getting harassed. I can tell you that at synagogues across this country, whether it's high holidays or Hanukkah, there are police everywhere. We see day after day the incidents of Jewish people walking down the street and just getting, assaulted, harassed, vandalized, synagogues vandalized, just for the fact that they're Jewish. And I can tell you that the ADL and its reporting, they have never seen incidences so high. And so the Coast Guard, they need to protect their servicemen and women from harassment, not just of swastikas, nooses as well. We all understand what nooses when it comes to racism. And there's no joking around about that. This is no laughing, joking matter. These are painful, hurtful symbols, and I expect all branches of our military to stand strong against hate of all kinds and protect the men and women who proudly serve, bravely put their lives on the line for all of us to be protected from harassment from within their own ranks.
And are you concerned that this administration is just not serious enough. And I'm putting it mildly when it comes
But
to
they're not
taking
serious
on,
about anything.
well, I mean,
They're
when
not
it comes
serious
to
about
taking on
anything.
anti-Semitism, and when it comes to denouncing Nazism, I mean, you had J.D. Vance, the vice president, over the summer excusing these young Republicans who had this group chat where they were talking about gas chambers and so on. And then you have this Paul Ingrassia character who they moved him around from administration job to administration job. And this is somebody who has said himself that he has a Nazi streak in him. He's said this.
Oh, I've seen it.
I'm sure you've seen the reporting. I mean, does this concern you?
Well, of course it does, because this administration, again, it's chaotic, it's confusing. They talk out of all sides, or they would say both sides of their mouth. One day they say this thing, one day they say this thing. Which is it? They can't have it both ways. And I can tell you, for Vice President Vance and so many others, they say one thing one day, then they go on the trail, or whoever they support, whoever their shows they're on, they're clearly white supremacists. They're promoting hate speech, whether it's anti-Semitism or other types of hate, all around the country, and in some cases around the world. And this administration, I don't believe, is serious about tackling issues of hate in any forms. And they use the fight against anti-Semitism for political purposes. They use it to divide us instead of being strong to protect people from harassment, from assault, from vandalism. Well, again, whether it's anti-Semitism or other forms of hate, they use this as a weapon to divide people, to tear them apart further, and as a wedge. And it is wrong. They know what they're doing, and they're doing it purposely, and shame on them.
Yeah. And Senator, while I have you, I have to ask you, because it's in the news. Trump, I guess the White House just announced they've renamed the Kennedy Center, the Trump Kennedy Center. I mean, this sounds like, a joke or something off of Saturday Night Live, but it's real, it's true. Your thoughts on this? Because, my understanding is that, they need to change the law. You can't just do this.
Only Congress can change the name. And Donald Trump, and I'm going to bring this not just to the Kennedy Center, but to the White House. I know you've seen what he's put plaques on every president, talking about how he feels about each and every presidency on this presidential wall of gold, or whatever that is, renaming this or that. He has total disdain for the law. I want to say the White House, what he's done with the demolishing of it, what he's done with the plaques, the Rose Garden. It is a people's house. The history belongs to the people. He is merely a resident, an elected resident. We don't have a king. And when it comes to the Kennedy Center, only Congress can do this. Again, we don't have a king. I don't care how many places he tries to put his name in gold in, he is still not our king. I don't care how many people give Freedom Award, or someone's going to come actually give them their Nobel Prize in order to gain favor. He's so easily flattered and manipulated by a shiny object, like a 2-year-old if you give him a new toy on Christmas. And so it's absolutely ridiculous. It is an insult to President Kennedy, is an insult to everyone who has served this country. You think about profiles in courage, our current president. How many deferments did he have? There's no profile in courage there. And so we're going to have to find ways to fight back on that too. But when it comes to the White House, not his house. Kennedy Center, not his either.
Yeah.
He is merely like all of us we can. And he can't take it over and do whatever the hell he wants with it.
Yeah.
And I think most people I talk to agree with me on that.
All right. Well, Senator Rosen, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. And I guess we'll stay on top of this Coast Guard story. It's shocking to me that our own United States Coast Guard can't hold the line when it comes to, messages of hate. That to me is just appalling and over the top.
I appreciate you amplifying it, and we will, hopefully in the next few days, we'll have more information. I'm happy to come back on and talk to you anytime about this or everything else that's going on. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks, Senator. Really appreciate it. Best of luck and happy holidays.
Happy holidays to everybody out there too. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Just to hammer home that point, here we have Donald Trump. It's basically one day and counting. The sun is setting here on Thursday, December 18th, 2025. The sun is setting. We're almost to midnight, about 7 hours from now here on the East Coast. And then he'll have 24 hours to produce the Epstein files. The clock is ticking. The clock is ticking down to midnight Friday. Like Cinderella at the ball, Donald Trump has until midnight tomorrow night to produce the Epstein files. And let's hope that they follow the law here. I mean, this is a pretty lawless administration, but let's hope that they follow the law here, because it is a law that Donald Trump signed himself. So they know full well what it entails. But again, this goes to show you, this Kennedy Center situation goes to show you this is what they think the important stuff is. This is what they think the important stuff is. Renaming the Kennedy Center. And this sounds like something out of The Onion or Saturday Night Live or Idiocracy, probably more like Idiocracy. That Donald Trump, who has never really been a champion of the arts, he's always wanted to be in that orbit, but most artists are like, they just don't want to get anywhere near him. And to think that if he slaps his name on the Kennedy Center, that's a good thing. In the Washington, D.C. area, the Washington Post has been reporting that ticket sales have been plummeting at the Kennedy Center since Donald Trump took it over. They disbanded the board of the Kennedy Center. And then you had a lot of people say, well, we're just not going to the show Hamilton. There are other shows that said, well, we're just not going to come to the Kennedy Center. Ben Folds, I think, was another one, the artist Ben Folds. And so the place is not, they can't fill the theaters for a variety of events now because of Donald Trump and the shit he's done over at the Kennedy Center. And so if he thinks that slapping his name on the Kennedy Center is going to help the situation, I think not. And it just goes to show you, this is what they think the important stuff is. We showed you the plaques along the colonnade where they've attached these plaques underneath the photos of various presidents, people like Barack Obama, so Donald Trump and his people can take shots at Barack Obama and take pot shots at Joe Biden and Bill Clinton and so on. And this is what they're doing instead of running the country. And it's absolutely ridiculous. But, going back to a recurring segment of the show, Earth to Donald, I want to show everybody some video. This is from the Oval Office earlier today. And I think everybody should be talking about this. I think everybody should be calling attention to this. Here is video of Donald Trump once again. If you haven't seen this, here it is, of him once again falling asleep in the Oval Office. This is earlier today.
To highly refined, reliable sources of cannabis rather than relying on one or two sources around.
Apparently they had this event. They thought it would be a good idea to reclassify marijuana. And, obviously there's some segment of MAGA that thinks this is a good idea. So they're kowtowing to some voting bloc out there that they think this is a good idea. But Donald Trump, again, falling asleep in the Oval Office, can't stay awake. Now, he does not have a very busy schedule publicly. He doesn't go out in front of the cameras very much. And so you would think when he does that they would get Grandpa a cookie, that they would get Grandpa a Diet Coke, get him a well-done hamburger, get him some calories, wake him up, poke him with a stick, pull the string in the back. It's like he's like the animatronic president at the Hall of Presidents at Disney World. Pull the string in the back. So the president is awake and alert when there are people around him talking. And there he is doing this. And then he realizes he's falling asleep, and he does and then he drones off again. He's falling asleep. And can you imagine? And perhaps some of our viewers right now are doing the same thing, listening to me talk. I have a very soothing voice. I understand that. But imagine if any of us were at our job. I guess some people, they sleep on the job. It happens. But not the president of the United States. One would think there's enough shit to do to keep you awake where you don't fall asleep on the job. But Donald Trump he's asleep at the switch, ladies and gentlemen. He's asleep at the switch. And the craven immature, sophomoric, towel snapping amateurs who he has working for him. They think going around and doing things like putting plaques on the wall that owns the libs and putting Trump's name on the Kennedy Center because that owns the libs, that somehow they're getting serious work done on behalf of the American people. And they just need to, maybe he had too much pot. It might help Donald Trump a little bit to microdose a little. Did anybody see that speech last night when he gave that speech? And he sounded as though he thought he was at the rally, and he's shouting and he's yelling. It was like Grandpa Simpson yelling at the clouds. Hey, you damn kids, get off my lawn. You damn kids, you better like the economy. You damn kids, we've got the inflation under control. I mean, he's become Grandpa Simpson. Remember The Simpsons? I think it's still on the air, but remember the episodes of the 90s and the 2000 Grandpa Simpson? He would just fall asleep. That's my impersonation of Grandpa Simpson. He would just pass out on the sofa. And he would be talking, and in the middle of the sentence, just... This is Donald Trump now. This is the president of the United States. And again, I only give him shit. I only give him shit because over and over and over and over, he called Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. He called him Sleepy Joe all the time during the 2020 campaign, during the 2024 campaign. And Biden in the debate, he said he gets a word wrong, and then Donald Trump and everybody attacks Joe Biden, and Joe Biden's out to lunch. Donald Trump, we're not even at 1 year into this. They said the speech last night was to celebrate 1 year. We're not even at one fucking year. And he can't stay awake. He's I mean, can't Melania bake a sheet of cookies, get some sugar cookies going for Christmas? Say, Merry Christmas, Donald. Here's a sugar cookie so you can stay awake. Sorry, that's the best. Be best, Donald. Be best. Merry Christmas. If she could get him some Christmas cookies, maybe he can stay awake. Some candy canes. You can see it's towards the end of the week. I'm having a little fun here, but I'm making a serious point, for Pete's sake here. I'm making a serious damn point. The president of the United States should be able to stay awake in the Oval Office when there are cameras in the room. The reason why you have the video of him falling asleep in the Oval Office, it's not like there's like 3 people in there and somebody's droning on and being boring. He has like 20 people behind him. And then in front of him, I've been there. I know there's like 20 or 25 people all crowded in there with their cameras going and their recording devices and their reporters who are hanging on it. Mr. President, they're hanging on us everywhere. Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President. And he can't stay awake. He's passed out. He passed, as I said, the PO in POTUS stands for passed out, ladies and gentlemen. And so maybe the Kennedy Center, with his name on it, maybe it's somewhat fitting because that's what the audiences are going to be doing. The small, single digit audiences that they're going to have at these shows now. It's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. But it just goes to show you what they think the important things are. Donald Trump is asleep at the switch. And so people like Stephen Miller, the armed fart brigade that they have working for them over at the White House, this is what they think they should be doing to keep Grandpa entertained. Let's put some plaques underneath the pictures on the colonnade, which shouldn't even be there. Let's rename the Kennedy Center. Let's do something to make Grandpa happy. When really just if Melania could come out with the cookies, Merry Christmas, Donald, have a cookie. It will keep you awake. It will make you big and strong. Just be big and strong, Donald. Be best. And congrats to all of you if you've stayed awake for that rant of mine. But I Donald Trump, somebody get that guy a cookie. That's all I ask heading into this. We got one more day before we head into the weekend, but just one Christmas cookie would be helpful at this point. My thanks to Khanna. My thanks to Liz Plank. Wasn't she fun? That was wonderful. I'm all about like grabbing guys and being like, you can't act like Donald Trump and Andrew Tate. Like, it's just not going to fucking work, guys. And of course, my thanks to Senator Jackie Rosen doing important work in the United States Senate. And my thanks to all of you. It always helps if you subscribe, you share, you like. It helps keep this reporting on the air. It keeps me doing these rants of impersonating Grandpa Simpson and falling asleep in the Oval Office. It's a gig. It's a living. What can I say? But no, thanks to all of you. Really appreciate you watching. We're getting we're counting down to Christmas, folks. And I can't wait to, share all of that with you next week. But in the meantime, still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. Have a good evening. I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for letting me have some fun. Good night.